Hullo YouTube. This is Dr. Vibes, a learning point. In today's video, we will study about the antiretroviral drug. Before studying that, you should know what is the life cycle of a retrovirus. Now, one such retrovirus is HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, and the name we have all heard. So before understanding what are the drugs, we have to know its life cycle. So consider this is a retrovirus. This is the nucleocapsid, watch my pencil, and this is a single-stranded RNA. This is RNA, correct? This RNA molecule with the nucleocapsid has two glycoproteins. GP stands for glycoprotein, glycoprotein 41 and glycoprotein 120. This is the cell membrane of a CD4 cell. CD4 cell is the target of HIV virus, isn't it? So this is the cell membrane. On this cell membrane, you have three receptors. See carefully, CD4 receptor, CCR5 receptor, and CXCR4 receptor. Three receptors are there. 1, 2, 3 receptors. Now, the glycoprotein 120 of the HIV will first attach to the CD4 receptor. Okay, so this is the step of attachment. Attachment GP120 to CD4 receptor. Second step is fusion. After this GP120 attaches to the CD4 receptor, there is some conformational change such that GP41 also fuses with the CD4 receptor. So fusion. Changes in the CD4 receptor now will cause the fusion of GP41 to the CD4 receptor. Hence, this RNA molecule with the nucleocapsid has entered the cycle. And after it has entered, this will cause the shedding of the nucleocapsid and only the virus particle remains. Only the virus particle remains here. Okay. Now, there is one enzyme which is called as reverse transcriptase. What is normal transcription? DNA to mRNA. What is reverse transcription? RNA to DNA. So this reverse transcriptase will cause the single-stranded RNA to become a DNA molecule. This is the DNA molecule. See? Now, with the help of enzyme integrase, now this DNA molecule is incapable of replicating on its own. So, with the help of integrase, this DNA molecule gets integrated with the host DNA molecule. That is the role of integrase enzyme. Okay. Now, the release of many particles of RNA. See, many particles have been released. And these are the glycoprotein molecules. These are the RNA particles, these are the glycoprotein molecules. Then the protease enzyme will cause assembly. That means the RNA molecule combines with the glycoprotein to form a rough HIV molecules. These are rough HIV molecules. See, the glycoproteins are not proper. Again, the protease will cause the maturation process. That means these rough HIV changes to mature HIV. Okay, so this is the life cycle of a HIV or a retrovirus. Now, once you have known the life cycle, it is very easy for you to understand what will be the antiretroviral drugs. The first step can be you block the CD4 receptor. Okay. The second step can be you can cause alteration in the GP120 molecule. Now, alteration in the GP41 will not be so much effective because GP41 is again dependent on the GP120 binding to CD4. So there is no point in changing this. You can block GP120, you can block CD4 receptor. You can also block CCR5 receptor because CCR5 is the entry to HIV 1 and 2. Okay. CD4 is the entry only for HIV 1, which is CCR5 blockage will cause the inhibition of entry of HIV 1 and HIV 2. So what did I say? Under the column of entry receptors, we have GP120 blockage, CD4 receptor blockage, and CCR5 blockage. Okay. Next step is the reverse transcriptase inhibitors. Next class of enzyme is reverse transcriptase inhibitors. If you will inhibit the conversion of the single-stranded molecule of RNA to double-stranded DNA, obviously the process will not go on further. What is the third step? You can inhibit the integrase enzyme. Do not allow this double-stranded viral DNA to integrate with the host DNA. So till now I have done three. Entry receptors, reverse transcriptase inhibitors, integrase inhibitors. What can be the fourth one? Fourth is the protease inhibitors. See, protease are doing two functions, assembly and maturation. So you will inhibit that. So under antiretroviral drugs, we have four kind of classes. Entry receptor blockage, reverse transcriptor inhibitor, protease inhibitor, and integrase inhibitors. Some of the examples of each class of drugs. From each class, if you remember 2 or 3 names which are important, then it's enough for now. Let's begin with number 1, that is entry inhibitors. Entry inhibitors are again of 3 types, isn't it? What are they? Tell me. GP120 blockage, CD4 receptor block and CCR4 receptor block. GP120 blockage will be fostemsavir. This is a prodrug which will be activated into tamsavir. CD4 receptor block, let's remember two drugs, enfuvirtide and ibalizumab. Now remember here that tide and mab, the drugs ending with tide, mab and ace, they cannot be given orally, okay, because they are subjected to the gastric mucosa, acidic pH, so they cannot be given orally. And CCR4 receptor, we have maraviroc and vicarivirov. Okay. Yes, you have to remember the names and nothing can be done about this. If you do it multiple times, at most what you can do, just remember 2 or 3 names from each class. Next up is reverse transcriptase inhibitors. They are again of 2 types. What are they? NRTIs and NNRTIs. What do you mean by NRTIs? Nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors. And NNRTIs are non-nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors. Now there is one animation which has beautifully explained the roles of this NRTIs and NNRTIs, and I will give the links of this video in the description box as well as on the I button above. Okay, so please do check to understand the concept. Okay, now NRTIs, what are the drugs? You have zidovudine, you have abacavir, and you have LET. What is L? Lamivudine. E is ematricitabine, and T is tenofovir. Okay, now these are important and there are 4-5 names which you should remember here. Now NNRTIs, remembering 2 will be enough. Nevirapine and efavirenz. Okay, come to class 3. Integrase inhibitors. Roltegravir and dolutegravir. Now I know these names are very confusing and you will have a lot of trouble remembering them, but I can tell you that stick this on your walls and see them frequently so that you get to remember these. And just remember 2 or 3 as I've already mentioned from each class. Okay. Okay, so roltegravir, dolutegravir. Last we have protease inhibitors. What are they? Lotinavir, ritonavir, atazanavir, indinavir. Okay. Still, if you want mnemonics of these drugs, I will give it to you. But first, try to, remember by writing down, by using sticky notes on your walls. You'll see that this will gradually come into your mouth. Okay. So these are the 4 class and these are the drugs. Okay. Also, if you find all these videos helpful, please do like, share and subscribe because it takes a really lot of efforts to make these videos.